Growing up, I wasn't taught how to grieve. Instead, things were swept under the rug or downplayed. How can I effectively grieve different hardships that I face now as an adult?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And I very much appreciate your recognition of that incredibly important uh, teaching and understanding that we need as adults. That is how to grieve loss in our life. Because every one of us faces loss. Life is full of losses. Even great things that happen in our life involve loss. And that there's change that happens, and change always has a part of it loss. And so being able to acknowledge those losses and knowing how to grieve them is an essential tool for healthy living. Nobody's able to be in a healthy place and not be able to acknowledge and grieve the losses. And acknowledging it, the opposite of sweeping it under the rug, is the beginning place for that. Right? If you listen to your body will tell you when there are losses to grieve. You know, that sadness, the emotion of sadness, is our body's way of communicating that we're experiencing a loss that needs grieved. And grief is that process by which we accept the things that we can't change, right? That there's losses in our life that we can't do anything about. We have to accept them, and acknowledging the sadness that our body is experiencing that alerts us to that loss, and giving ourselves permission to viscerally feel within our body that loss, and to allow another to hold that with us. Because again, if you've watched other shows, if you've heard us before, you know that God designed us to co-regulate, right? That when the scriptures talk about bearing one another's burdens, it's not just telling us a nice thing to do, it's telling us about neurologically how God wired human beings to operate. That every one of us needs to bear things with another in order to process through them in a healthy way. And so that part of that grieving is acknowledging to the self the loss that's there and wrapping language around it, but also sharing that with another in a way that allows them to hold that with us so that we can process that grief through to completion and come to terms with and be able to accept the losses that are a part of our life, big and small.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is a really good answer to a hard question. I mean, it's a loaded question, and I mean, grief comes in so many different forms, and there's so many different ways to grieve, so many different things to grieve. And yeah, I mean, totally reaffirming exactly what you just said and we all experience it, like this is a universal feeling that can happen.
Yeah, not wanting to grieve doesn't make it go away, right? Like we can get in this place of not wanting to feel the sadness, not wanting to experience the grief. We just want it to go away.
Right, and that's the downplaying.
We're mad at it. We're like, oh, I don't want to don't want to grieve this loss.
Right,
but cutting ourselves off from it, packing it down, doesn't make it go away.
If anything, it comes back up later in ways that we don't expect,
Totally, yeah, and gets projected into other things, can really keep people stuck, right? Because we can't move on to the next thing until we've grieved the loss of the last thing. And so our inability to grieve loss keeps us stuck where we're at and unable to move on and move forward in our life.